the cronies who are gaining from this government and controlling the Indian economy, how they're also feeding the ruling party through what we've always said, legalized political corruption. So these are matters of very, very serious concern. So CPI now today demands that they should be, apart from the regulators going to the normal course of inquiry, a high-level inquiry constituted by the Government of India. Because in today's conditions, with the Parliament being what it is, a joint parliamentary committee will not be of much use, and it has not produced anything so far during the last 7-8 years of this Modi government. So in this situation, a high-powered committee involving all the concerned ministries, monitored by the Supreme Court, is what has to be done immediately to save our economy, save the lives of our people. Unemployment today is at the highest of levels. Our inflation is going rampant despite the RBI saying that it is coming under control and slightly falling. World calls us the hunger levels in our country as being very serious. The Modi government rubbishes the global indices, but the fact that Modi government has announced and the Prime Minister himself has announced that for the whole year 2023, 5 kg of free food grains will be given to how many people? 81.35 crores of people. That is how much? 2/3 of India. 2/3 of India, according to the Prime Minister of India, cannot survive without this free 5 kg a month. What is that an admission except hunger? If 81.35 crores of Indian people cannot survive without the free food grains, it is clear-cut admission that Indians are hungry. That there is very, very serious hunger situation in the country. High level of unemployment, high level of hunger, rising inflation, and therefore more people being pushed into poverty. What does the Oxfam report show you? The highest number of people pushed into poverty last year in the world, nearly 28 crores of people were from India. This is what the latest Oxfam report has shown. And in this sort of a situation, but in the meanwhile, we thought it was necessary to raise with you certain important issues that we discussed and which are of very serious concern for the country and the people. The first of it is got to do with the Adani group of companies. As far as the Adani group of companies is concerned, for quite some time, particularly since after 2014, the manner in which these group of companies have actually grown all across the country, all across the sectors, from ports to airports to every single area of infrastructure that you can think of, that has come under the ambit of this group. Now, how has this been financing was a question that has always been raised and has always been of concern for the entire country because it has very serious implications. All of us know even the farm laws that were brought, the 3 farm laws that were brought that Mr. Modi had to withdraw in the face of the historic Kisan agitation and the struggle. These farm laws were also designed to hand over Indian agriculture to Mr. Adani, mainly, and to the other cronies of this government, that is the Mr. Ambani and the other sets of the group of companies that are involved as cronies. Now, the entire policy making in the country is being oriented to benefit these cronies, particularly the Adani group, and that has a very serious implication for our country's economy and future of crores of Indian people. The assets of the country were being handed over to this particular group. And all of us know the close connection between the Prime Minister and this group and the owner of this group. Because if you recollect, many of you must have published those photographs in your papers. which you have in fact, I don't know from Calcutta papers, that Mr. Modi was traveling in the Adani plane, and even after he was elected, the first flight he takes is a private jet of Mr. Adani, which is prominently written there. So the connection is very well known, and the handing over of India's assets, virtually the loot of India's assets, going over to this company. How this was being financed was a question that was always asked. Now that is where we are concerned. Our concern comes in the fact that today, the exposure of LIC's investment in Adani companies is somewhere to the tune of between 74,000 crores. This matter is involved. But the Tripura elections that are coming here, the CPIM has taken this very clear-cut position that the attacks on democracy which are deepening all over the country in all spheres, in Tripura particularly, any question of holding a free and fair election cannot come unless democracy, democratic rights there are safeguarded reasonably, and that requires all forces who believe in the Indian Constitution and who believe in democracy to come together to ensure that the reign of terror and the sort of a political situation of oppression that has been created with the BJP state government, that is removed. That is, all secular democratic forces, we have appealed to them to come together to make sure the defeat of the BJP in Tripura, so that the rule of law and the Indian Constitution and democracy can be preserved. So that's why the CPIM for the first time has come into an understanding, electoral understanding with other forces. The discussions are on till tomorrow will be the last date for nominations, and second will be the last date for withdrawals. So by the second, we think some sort of a seat adjustment program will happen with the Congress, and with also we appeal to the other secular democratic forces like the Tripura Motha and the other ones, so that we can all come together to ensure that the BJP government is removed from office, so that democracy, rule of law and the constitution can be safeguarded there in that state. And the interest that is being shown by the other northeastern BJP ruled states, particularly from Assam in Tripura, is also ominous, because the whole of the northeast is sought to be destabilized. After the destabilization of J&K, now has come to the northeast. And why I say destabilization of the J&K? I don't know. Most of you know Sonam Wangchuk. That is
motivator
of Amir Khan in Three Idiots. You know, now he is under house arrest from the 26th of January. And he's now put out a video saying that he was talking of safeguarding the Ladakh's unique attributes and demanding Schedule 6 be implemented, Constitution Schedule 6 be implemented for the Ladakh Union Territory, so that it's with Mr. Adani, the Adani Group, all the, airports with them, cement production facilities, factories with them, the basic infrastructure for the economy of the country. It's all being controlled by one gigantic group of companies led under one group. Now, what has come out in the Hindenburg exposure was the manner in which this was all being financed through a host of offshore companies that were listing or buying shares in the Adani Prime companies, through which the share value was inflated. The quantum of their actual capitalization was inflated. And if all this has been happening, which is essentially fraudulent methods, whether they are fraudulent methods or to what extent they are fraudulent methods and how this has happened, that is a matter that requires to be inquired thoroughly. Our concern as far as the CPM is concerned is people's interests. With the exposure of the LIC to the extent that what I told you, and the State Bank of India, to 40% of all their borrowings through the banks, If that is the case, then this is a matter that requires to be very, very thoroughly probed, maintaining and safeguarding people's interests. And India cannot have another fugitive businessmen. We have enough of them who left the country and gone away. And therefore, we'll have to, the government and the authorities will have to take measures to ensure that all this is properly inquired into. Normally, the regulators are, as far as the LIC and investments and things like that, it should be the SEBI. The SEBI is the regulator. And as far as the banking is concerned and the State Bank of India's exposure to the borrowings, it is the RBI. Now, the SEBI and the RBI, as the regulators, must do their job to inquire into what is happening. But at the same time, there has to be a much larger and a much higher level of inquiry that has to be constituted, because everybody is involved, from the finance ministry, from the foreign ministry, given the fact that much of the borrowing is being taken through foreign bonds in US dollars. Now, this is a huge amount of money. LIC is the place where crores of Indian people park their lifelong savings in terms of insurance policies. Now, with such a big exposure of investments of such a high nature in the Adani group of companies, anything were to happen to these companies, like it has happened in the last 2 days, their valuation has dropped by nearly $50 billion. $50 billion, that's what the international estimates say. If that valuation drops, or its value drops in such a way, it's people's money that is invested in these companies that is going to be the loser. That is your LIC policy, my LIC policy, everybody else's LIC policy. What you earn, returns out of that, would be virtually wiped out because of the manner in which this group's companies falling is dropping. So that means it affects not only the group's health, but it affects actually the health of large section of Indian people. Number two, 40% of the borrowings from nationalized banks in the country to the Adani group of companies is routed through the State Bank of India. Now, State Bank of India is the leading bank of the country. And in that, in all our bank accounts, is again, all the lifetime savings of crores of Indians are parked through their bank accounts. Now, if this is going to get affected with the drop in the value of the Adani group of companies, then the assets or the savings of the crores of Indian people get totally wiped out. Now, the argument saying that no, banks are in good health, so therefore nothing will happen, banks can go up to 10 to 12%. My earnings are being cut because of these sort of losses. So it's not the health of the bank whether it can sustain such a loss or not, but the point is the returns to the people on their lifelong savings, that is being drastically reduced. So these are matters of very serious concern. And the control over Indian economy